And now on the line is Cathal Leavy, and we are going to discuss the issue of anxiety and mental health. Cathal, welcome back to Near FM.
How you doing, Darren?
Good, thanks, Cathal. Cathal, there are different types of anxiety, some of which could be called good types of anxiety. Can you start off, please, by describing somewhat, in your experience, the different types of anxiety there are, and then tell me a bit about your experience of the issue?
Well, there's all different types of anxiety, like generalized anxiety disorder. Probably the most common type of anxiety would be social anxiety, and something I experienced myself for nearly the last 30 years. As I said, social anxiety is probably the most common but least talked about mental health problem there is. Like, it's so widespread, so many people experience it, like whether it's people going to college for the first time, going on a first date, starting a new job. Everybody experiences it at some time. But then for some individuals, it can be more long-lasting, as it has been for me. I've personally, as I said, I've suffered from social anxiety for the first time pretty much when I started college back many years ago. But it's been such a presence in my life and such a problem in my life that, like, I didn't even go to my sister's wedding because of social anxiety. I just didn't. The thought of mixing with my extended family felt like too much stress and pressure, and I basically avoided it. But the reason I basically speak out of mental health. I'm an advocate in that regard, and I just feel that if people opened up about their mental health, we'd have a much more caring, understanding society, and that's one of my goals in life, is just get people open up about their mental health. Nobody should feel stigmatized because they have a problem or have issues. The more people open up, the better it is for society at large, and the better it is for everyone. We'll have a much more loving, caring, utopian society.
Yeah, according to ChatGPT, anxiety in general is a quote neuropsychological condition involving brain circuits, body responses, and thoughts and learned patterns. I know that there are some medication like Lexapro that can help with anxiety, but what we are talking about in this interview, I think, is the thoughts and learned patterns of intense anxiety. What, in your opinion, is the solution to be able to overcome the, quote, thought and learn patterns of intense anxiety?
With a social anxiety, like, therapy helps, but you have to kind of expose yourself, a gradual exposure to social situations that you find somewhat tolerable. That's basically the best way to get on top of this to some degree. Don't start pushing the bar too high, but you can't just lock yourself away and never go out and mix, or never, like, you'll have a miserable life, and it's not a good thing. So it's just gradual exposure at situations like minor social situations. Nobody expecting like, I myself, look, I've never been to a wedding, so I'm not going to say, like, weddings are quite intimidating for a lot of people who have social anxiety, because you're mixing with so many people in the extended family who you don't really know. But I'm just saying there are gradual exposure situations that are a lot easier, and just expose yourself to that. And also, in truth, there's an element where you only need to be a little bit sort of light-hearted about it and have a bit of sense of humour and be reflective, and not, like, don't think if you have a bad social interaction with someone that other individual is going to go off and spend their whole evening analysing and reflecting on their interaction with you. You have to remember, your experience is pretty much as far as it's going to extend. It's not going to dwell in other people's minds. So you have to just be philosophical as well, and just be positive, and you will get better. We all can get better if we make the effort.
Therapy is very good as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I've been in therapy nearly 30 years, and trust me, it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. I encourage, I'm so outspoken on this that I encourage everybody to get into therapy. It is a great way to come to better understand yourself and other people, and have a much more balanced, happier life. It's something everybody should do, not just the mentally ill. Everybody should be in therapy. It's
But
really a positive step.
unfortunately, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, therapy is expensive, isn't it? Though.
Yeah, but it is free in the public healthcare system. But what I would say, for some people who are want to go into therapy for the first time, there is actually you can get discounted therapy if you're willing to go down a route and use therapists in training. Like I personally have availed of that myself, and the rates, like compared to private therapy, like I've heard that you can get therapies like 20 minutes for or €20 for an hour or whatever, close to an hour, you know. So that's really good value. And don't ever think that these trainee therapists are amateurs at what they're doing. They're far from it, because I've actually dealt with a lot of them, and they're a lot more keen, and they try and appeal to you a lot more. So like that's a cheap private option. But like there is free healthcare. I know in the public system that it can be difficult to access, but there is therapy there. But like I would just encourage people: don't think you're going to get a second-rate therapist if you go down and use these student therapists. Because I'm from my personal experience, I found them lovely to deal with, and they're so keen to appeal to you. They're trained. The difference with these therapists, they're trained. They just don't necessarily have a ton of experience behind them, but they're still good.
Yeah, I went to regular therapy twice in my life. The last time was well over 10 years ago, and I went to the Loretto Centre in Crumlin, and I was only paying, like, you kind of negotiate or agree what you pay. I think you have to pay, there's a minimum at the time, I think it was €10, you have to pay at least that an hour. I think I was paying €20, so, and the fellow I went to was brilliant, you know, and it was
Yeah.
great, you know, and like, I don't know if since then if there are other centres like the Loretto Centre in Dublin, but it's definitely worth checking out, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely are. And I know there's a few of those centres around Dublin. Like these are what people should avail of. So if you know, just reach out and inquire, make your inquiries, and you know, you're doing yourself a favour big time.